stories written on a sleeve. Some stories take digging deep. Eyes wide open, words unspoken. Where are you going, darling? Where have you been? Stories to tell, emotions we felt, good and the bad in the hands we've been dealt. I wanna know why, I wanna know why you're the way you are. He's from the city, she's from the south. Two different chapters told miles out. Their back row living in his White House. So many stories that I need to know. Not every story's written on a sleeve. Some stories take digging deep. Eyes wide open, words unspoken. Where are you going, darling? Where have you been? Stories to tell, emotions we felt, good and the bad in the hands we've been dealt. I wanna know why, I wanna know why you're the way you are. So many stories right in front of me. Some people climb to heights I've never seen. Too many falling down off their feet. These stories take digging deep. Eyes wide open, words unspoken. Where are you going, darling? Where have you been? Stories to tell, emotions we felt, good and the bad in the hands we've been dealt. I wanna know why, I wanna know why you're the way you are. Why you're the way you are. Why you're the way you are. Tiptoe around with face of a stranger. Quiet observer, never get too close. I see the world, but it's through this window. Another side to see, I'm ready to know. Not every story's written on a sleeve. Some stories take digging deep. Eyes wide open, words unspoken. Where are you going, darling? Where have you been? Stories to tell, emotions we felt, good and the bad in the hands we've been dealt. I wanna know why, I wanna know why you're the way you are. He's from the city, she's from the south. Two different chapters told miles out. Their back row living in his White House. So many stories that I need to know. Not every story's written on a sleeve. Some stories take digging deep. Eyes wide open, words unspoken. Where are you going?
Okay, and welcome to. I kind of feel obligated to do the Tim TK, right? Wednesday, Wham! Okay,
He didn't even come on yesterday and do it. He ditched us.
you know what he needs to do? He needs to record it.
He does.
He
And just
needs to
send it.
record it so we can do it. So hello everyone and welcome to Wednesday Wham. I'm not going to be here very long. I'm going to bail, and I'm going to leave the stream in the good hands of Barb and Aaron. So yes, we've got several people out today. Some personal reasons that probably ought not go in until they give us the okay to talk about it, or until they come back on and talk about it. But there's some personal things keeping some of the folks out. So, and I notice I'm looking down, so I need to move my screen up, don't I? So we wish them well and hope that send them our thoughts and prayers that everything goes well for them. We have pulled a Audible, and we had something lined up, but he who created the topic is not here right now. So he who created the topic can fix that when he who created the topic returns. So so until then, you see I'm sporting a Kablam shirt today. All right.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't realize that. So I'll go ahead and do the shout out. Thanks to Daytona Beach Comic Con, our sponsor. We appreciate Daytona Beach Comic Con. September 18th and 19th. This is just like I don't have a calendar up, but like a week and a half, right? Today is the 8th. So yes, not this weekend, but next weekend. I mean, if you haven't made your plans to be there yet, what the heck are you waiting on?
I'll be there.
What's wrong with you?
Yes, Barb will be there. It's going to be. Is this so? Barb, is this your first appearance in Florida?
Yes, it is.
So we need to make sure we shout that to everyone. This is Barb's first in her 30-year career. This is Barb's first ever appearance in the state of Florida. Mm-hmm. So if you live within reasonable driving distance, that means you people in Tallahassee, you can make the drive down there. And even if you're up in Valdosta, you folks down in Miami, come on up. Come on. I mean, 30-year career, first time in Florida. You need to bring your books. Barb, do you charge anything for your autographs?
No.
Barb does not charge anything. Bring her a stack of books. She is more than happy to sign them.
And even if she didn't write them, just have her sign stuff anyway. Just random stuff.
You go on to the Silverline website under my name and my bio, and you will see a list that's over 200 books long. So you got to have at least one of them in your collection somewhere.
That's right. That's right. And if you do not, look, he who created the topic is here.
Indeed.
Excuse me, sir. You can't just show up late and expect to be let in.
I should have let you do that, man.
So I was like, what? It turns out this is one of the easiest ones. I just copy pasted into Safari.
Listen, we'll talk more about this off the air, but yeah. So there's a lot of cool things about this that we'll fill in. But Aaron is going to be your button pusher producer tonight. Aaron, why don't you might as well play with some of the buttons while we're doing it. I mean, how else are you going to find out what they do if you're not pushing the buttons, right?
So if any of you guys feel any chest pains or anything, that's just me messing with your heart. All the buttons, the power of God on my side.
Now you need to figure out how to take that same layout there and put someone else up in the big screen, right?
Yeah, because there's this one, but when I click on this one, do I have to click on somebody? Let me see here. Because there's one that shows like two on the side and one on the big screen. But
right?
Is that a sharing? Okay, so this is people.
Yep.
People.
Nice.
That's not. Okay, but then there's this one, and this one just goes back to normal. Okay, hey, we'll just stick with this one.
Hey, Dean, have I mentioned how cool that thing to your right shoulder looks?
Well, thank you.
It looks very cool.
Did you draw that, Dean?
Dan Hozek's colors on my silver blade banner there.
Yes,
and they turn out fantastic. And for those of you who went and checked out my Facebook and liked my 3D experiment of this image, if you haven't seen it yet, go check it out. Facebook does this little trick where if you provide the file in the format that you can look up on the internet, and there's a certain format, they can create a 3D image of your file.
Yeah, it
And
didn't
that's
work
cool.
for me.
float around. It looks real cool. Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
very
it didn't
cool.
work for me. I think I checked it on my phone. I bet you if I check it on my computer, it'll work. Those usually work
Yeah,
on my
it should
computer.
work. It should work
Yeah,
on
yeah.
computer. How are we
So-
doing as far as the topic, kids? Have we approached it? Have we talked
I-
about anything?
I am going to bail, and I'm
Okay.
going to leave that in your hands.
All right.
Yep, I have the fullest of confidence in you guys.
Don't leave me, Roland. I'm nervous.
No, you're good. I will hang out on Discord, and obviously I'll try to keep the messages open. If you need me, just holler at me, okay?
Now you are
Yeah.
planning on jumping in later on for our fun thing, right?
Yes,
Okay.
I will. Yep.
Okay.
That
We
and
have
all
an
the other.
unprecedented new event that's occurring
Yes.
tonight that Roland is teasing there, and he'll join us here in
And I'm
about an hour.
super nervous because of the duality of its nature.
Ah,
Yes.
Ah,
It's something new for
something
Silverline.
new.
Yes.
and amazing.
Don't
wanna
What's
miss it.
happening with Silverline? So that's a good
Yeah.
thing.
So
That's awesome.
I need to go and try to relieve some of those nerves,
Okay.
and try to tweak some things. So, but I will be back. All right,
All right.
Okay.
Sounds great.
Aaron,
That's
I'll
right,
let
just
you. I'll let you remove me.
yay! I mean, bye, Roland.
There we go.
All right.
Okay.
Well, you guys
He has
are
the
aware,
power
course.
of the finger.
I do,
know.
and now I can put you. What do you guys better like this?
Wow,
No.
look at that. See, we're,
No, that looks
subject-
better. Okay, yeah,
Subject to the immense power of Aaron.
I know.
So how are you guys doing? Has everyone introduced themselves?
No, actually, we've just been rambling a bit. We
Just
didn't know when
rambling.
you were going to
There's-
show up, so we didn't actually.
Are we
were just gonna
live?
do a free for all until you showed up and
Yeah,
set the reins.
yeah.
Sometimes that's fun, you know. But just to stand on ceremony here, let's go ahead and introduce. Welcome to Silverline Wednesday, Wham, everybody. My name is Dean Zachary, and I'm your host for this evening. And we have our wonderful engineer in training, Aaron Humphreys, and our beautiful Empress of the Inks, Barbara J. Kaleberg. Welcome, guys. Appreciate it. I'm glad we're going to hold it together. We're a skeleton crew, but we can do this. We've done this
We can.
before. This ain't our first rodeo, as we say in the.
There may be a
West
few
and
other
South.
people hopefully jumping in later. I know Haley was going to try. She's caught in a rainstorm at the moment, so
Okay.
she was
Okay.
going to try to hop on when she finally made it home.
Caught in a
Well-
rainstorm. What kind of excuse is that?
I don't know. A
I don't know.
rainstorm?
Driving? Why is she on her phone driving in a rainstorm?
I know. Yeah. She could do it.
She could do it. Tonight's topic is action in comics. Now, when I'm talking about action here, I'm specifically talking about physical action, fisticuffs, fighting, gunfighting, shootouts, sword fights, all the stuff that makes an action movie and not a drama. And same thing with comics. I thought it was appropriate since we're in the wake of Marvel's Shang-Chi, which is obviously a kung fu action movie, and their minds might be on fighting action. And I'll start with Barbara. When you think about action in your comic book, let's talk about in terms of Divinity and in the backdrop there. It's a drama, but there is action. You don't shy away from it at all. If anyone who's read Divinity knows it, there's a lot of action in there. How much would you say out of every 20? Do you do 22 or 24 pages?
24 pages. And RA is a huge help in that respect. He has been writing for, oh my God, as long as I've known him, and I've known him for 30 years.
Yeah.
So he is a master at the pacing for that. I leave that pretty much in his hands. I tell him that, all right, in this issue, this is what's going to happen. And then I let him pretty much pace it. But I want it to be realistic when there's fisticuffs, as you call them.
Indeed.
There better be blood and bruises. They're not going to walk away, looking pristine.
Sure.
And I want it to be realistic. My characters are not superheroes. They don't have healing abilities. They're just regular people. And so I want it to be look real, and he's a Marine. So obviously he's going to have some skills.
Oh, yeah.
They're both Marines. They're going to have some skills. And you won't you will notice that I don't shy away from using firearms either. And I am very particular about getting my firearms
This is
correct
also
for
has
the
to do with in
situation.
person as well. She shot at me numerous times.
You're
You're either really
right.
fast or she's a really bad shot. So I'm
You just have to
guessing
be.
you're
You just
really
have to be
fast.
really quick on your feet around Barb.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right. Now, I was raised around firearms. My father is a collector. I was raised on a farm. We had firearms for practical purposes, not because we enjoyed having them.
Sure.
Because varmints. We had
Mhm.
varmints.
Mhm.
So I was raised to learn to shoot, and I liked to have my firearms be realistic for the purposes. My son is also in the military, and he is a sharpshooter. So that's not what he does for them. He's a weapons specialist, but in basic training, he qualified as a sharpshooter. And so I've been around weapons all my life,
Mhm.
and I want them to be real and be used for real. So if I see something where RA has written a sequence, and this happened just recently, where he's using an Uzi for long distance shooting, I'm like, wait. Uzi is a short distance weapon. It is a spray, it's for a crowd and up close. You're going to want, and then I listed off, I gave him 3 choices of sniper rifles to use for that particular sequence. So yeah, I do want realism in what I do.
I think doesn't an Uzi use basically handgun and ammunition? It's like 32, 45 caliber. I know it's like handgun ammunition, but it's just fully automatic, if I'm not mistaken. So
It's
that
almost
also,
like an automatic pistol. In that.
yeah. So the range is not like, I mean, sniper rifle bullets are like, pack much more gunpowder behind it.
Right. And he was having an Uzi shoot from ridge to ridge outside. I'm like, that doesn't work. And then
No.
from a motorcycle, I'm like, okay, we can give one of the guys an Uzi for a later on scene, but for this scene, we need a long distance rifle. And I like, specific handguns too.
Yeah, I like the fact that you're almost a technical advisor in a way for
Yes.
RA and advising him on those things. One thing I like to do as the artist, if I'm doing contemporary action piece, I will research the weapon. Now we can look it up on YouTube. I used to have books and gun magazines stacked around, and as a kid, I grew up around it too. Growing up in the South and hunting and all that. And what was fun is they used to sell models that were replicas, and I still have a 45 Colt 45 replica that's like the gun that everyone knows.
Yeah.
Know what it's like. And I had it laying on next to my drawing table one day. This is way back in the 90s. I was working for Malibu, and a friend came in and like, whoa, are you like a private investigator or cop or something? I go, no, it's plastic. I said, here.
Model.
It's a model. But now, being able to find how the weapon expels a spent shell and so on, so that we draw it correctly as it's expelling the shell and so on and so forth. So I try to do that as well, and I really have a high respect for people who do that for a living and understand it. Now, Aaron, what about you as far as action? I know your material can be very fantasy and very otherworldly, but you do have action in your comics as well. Tell us about it.
Yeah. So, and I set up my comic to almost be like one was setting up action, and basically, let me see here. I can let me share, because I did something with the action. I'll share screen.
Oh, awesome. Okay.
Share. Let me see here. Share screen. It should be window. Oh wait. Let me see. What if I do? Hold on. Excuse me. Let me see. Is that a window I can share?
It kills the whole stream.
Yeah. Destroy.
Yeah, and the whole screen. Wow, it worked. Amazing.
Yeah. So this is my 5th issue, and so issue 4 sets up this entire battle, and this entire issue is one huge battle.
Oh, I love that.
And this is basically where he's trying to convince all of them, like this huge being. You see how big this thing is, and they're all trying to run, and he's like, "No, stay and fight." And like, he's like, "You're gonna die anyways. Might as well go." And so they all, attack. This is a 2-page spread. And I don't know if I could do 2 pages, but just to show how big
Yeah, I can see. Yeah.
that thing is, the connecting. But what I try to do just to keep the action going a little bit in my comic, and this is an experiment, is I made each scene kind of start at, okay, so if this scene starts here where they're shooting at him and they knock them into the building, like he knocks them, he goes flying into a building, that scene ends, and the next scene picks up at the end of the page, goes into the next page, and that ends, and then the scene picks up. So I started picking it, ended up scenes in the middle of the pages instead of ending the scene at the end of the page. I started picking up the scenes like this scene ends here, the next scene picks up here. So the idea was to keep the momentum going, not like hard stops. That was kind of the idea behind that. I don't know if it worked, but it was something I was playing with. The idea, and this is when everyone's noticing like this is huge thing destroying everyone. And so, and there are some deaths in here. But the way I think I do panel the panel, like it depends on this. Like he shoots this guy in the head, and this thing goes and nips him, and he's about to fire again. So I do panel to panel. I do set up my action as a storytelling element. I'm not really good at doing, like, they fight and they draw like a lot of pictures of people kicking or fighting, or like I like to, like, my actions have a narrative. This is when she gets hit. So anyone watching, I'll give a little bit away. She does die, and then this is kind of like he goes, and this is somebody like an unrequited love. He bursts and basically harms this thing with his rage. He harms it enough that they are basically like, we have a chance. We need to hit them. And this is another friend. He finds out that this lady's died. This is her necklace. And so we need to finish this. And so, and I want to keep upping the stakes. So she's dead. They're hitting him with everything they have. You know, there's people dying, like literally being disintegrated in the background.
Oh, yeah.
And this is when this guy's like, well, we're not hurting enough. We're not doing enough damage. And he comes in with these 3 others, like, we need to hit it. We need to crack it. And they crack it. And they destroy it. And they tell him to, like, the teleport, get out. And then that's when, now this is the other scene. And then you find out he was the only one that lived. Everyone was destroyed in the blast.
Wow, that's, well, ruthless.
And so this is kind of like, so that's what my next part of my story is. How do you deal with that consequence?
Right.
Of that. So spoiler alert, I spoiled there a little bit there. You have to read the rest of the story. But
it's okay.
I wanted to give consequences to my action, that if you do something and cause it, that people happen. I'll give a hint, not everyone is dead. There's a few surprises. But that's kind of the idea. So the whole issue is one huge action piece.
Okay.
And
but
I
built up to this, right? You've been setting this up for several.
So 4 issues I built up to this, and then right in the middle of my story, and then it pretty much hits, and then it's kind of like, and then the rest of the next 7 issues is him dealing with the aftermath, and there's more that comes out of this. So it was more like a guy who made a mistake doing altruistic things, wanting to be free, and then he has to kind of pick up the pieces and kind of go through. There's some other stuff, read the story, there's some other repercussions that come his way. But it was just the idea of, like, instead of, because so many comics do drama, action in 1 issue. So I was like, well, if I build up the drama in 1 issue, like build it up to the end of the issue, ends with this huge thing, the entire next issue be this huge fight, war. Like, that might be kind of satisfying. I've never seen people do that. I think a few people have done it in comics here and there, but not many. And so, but that was, this guy stopped sharing. Yeah, but that was my idea in that one. And then I have, most of my comics have action, like, talking action, but that was one where, and actually kind of almost feels like the story comes to a head, like a conclusion, but like not even in the middle of the story. And then that's why when I want to hook people, it's like, well, yeah, okay, after that, everyone's gone. So now where you going?
Yeah.
So you got 7 issues to find out. So that's why I want to hook you. Like, okay, where is this going? I'm like, I know where I'm going.
Well, there are 2 things I love about. Number 1, the setup, like you're talking about. I like long setups. If you're going to deliver a full issue of action, and you're going to have consequences, and they're going to be real consequences. They're not going to be a tease and then bring them back from the dead sort of thing. It's like, it like really happens. That's the one thing I love. The second thing is, and I want to touch on this in the next part of the show, is the narrative action idea. I've always preferred narrative action sequences rather than just, okay, they fight. Okay, there's a shootout. Okay, there's a car chase. And then, there's some modern comics that shall not be named, and modern writers who, and I've even read this in some of their scripts, they'll just say, okay, the next page is a fight scene. And literally, it will be a scene of a spandex superhero character in a fighting pose with the main villain, right? And
Right.
that's in the middle of the page. And then literally sprinkled with quip dialogue all around it. And that's your
Yeah.
fight scene. And then you move on and we're back to talking heads, right?
Yeah.
Can't stand that. That's
It's
not
very
comic.
unsatisfying.
Very unsatisfying because number one, action should propel the story forward. So if you give me just a token splash page montage, you're not giving me what an action adventure is, right? The equivalent would be if we saw Indiana Jones go, what truck? And then he gets to the truck, and then we have a beauty shot of him holding on to the truck, and then it's over and the bad guy's done. And we'd be like, what? What just happened? So you want to take the reader and the viewer through it, and you want to show them what happens step by step. I like the fact that you carry through. I don't even have to ask Barb because I know in her books she and RA do that and move forward. I do that
She's
as well.
building up to something. She's building up, and I can see that. It's. I think so many people in comics want to like get to the action right away, and sometimes if you build it up and hit the action, it's much more poignant. When that hits.
Yes, it's like using a drum crash or cymbal crash with every beat on every beat. If you're in a rock band or whatever, it's like no, save the crashes, right? So
I also don't like the John Wick approach, the latest John Wick, where it's just constant action and then there's no real plot or movement. I like to have it also fall realistically. If like in Divinity #2, we have some exposition, and then we have some action, and then we have some exposition, and then we have some action, but it's done in a realistic way because you can't possibly keep up that momentum forever.
Right. And it's the one writer that was always where I kind of got more into the narrative action was Chris Claremont when he did X-Men. He did that a lot, not all the time, but he was really good at carrying battles through. That there was like an organization, or Storm was doing something with her ice powers to affect something, and so that idea. Another one who's really good at it, but doing it without words, is Katsuo Otomo, who does Akira. He's really good at doing action scenes, and there's lots of pages that don't have words. It's just straight narrative action. He's really good at it. So I've read a lot of comics, and I'm like Dean. I always get way more into like if you give me a narrative to the action, that's much more invigorating to like they fight. And I mean I can't. That's why I've seen so many superhero comics like I'm going to overtake the city. Super guy jumps down. No, you won't. They fight, and it's like okay, I don't. And I tell people it's like that's great, but I don't care. This is the number one goal. If you don't have any stake in the outcome of the action scene, it falls flat.
It does.
You need to have a stake in it.
One of the things that I like about war movies is that it gives you a chance. Say you're in the middle of a battle, there'll be fight, and then they'll jump into a foxhole, and you'll have a lull. And they'll have a chance to catch their breath and talk a bit, and then they'll jump out and they'll fight some more, and then you'll get another lull in the battle. Where everything quiets down for a second. And I think those lulls are important in order to focus on what the war is doing to the person, or find out what their next plan of action is going to be, or all right, here's what we're going to do. You go over this way, you go that way, but it gives a sense of realism, because like I said, you can't continuously go without telling a story. I mean, yes, the battle tells a story, but after a while you kind of get numb to it if you don't have breaks. It just you're like, okay, yes, I get it. They're fighting. I need a little bit more. I need a bit more. Feed me a little bit more.
This is my big problem with a lot of modern action movies is the in-fight scenes like 20, 30, up to 45 minutes long. And sometimes I lose track of what's happening.
I get bored with it.
The best action movie, my favorite action movie, my friend Tom think is like Die Hard. But Die Hard was just the way they did action. They just built it steadily up. And that guy, and the thing about it, well, there was a few things they did in Die Hard that were really, one, he was scared for his life, which was different. He was actually not like a Schwarzenegger hero, like, I know how to do this. I mean, he's running for his life the whole time, and he's honestly scared. And it's just by sheer luck he's able to handle it. So you feel for this guy, like this guy's stuck, and he's honestly scared. And second, they kept building it, and like, how much can you do to this guy? And so there is something that is sort of crescendo of building up. James Cameron is also a master at building up tension and building up that crescendo. And you definitely want to, especially action, get your heroes into that sort of, how are they going to get out of this? If you can put your heroes into how they're going to get out of this situation, you will hook your readers more likely, because they've got to find out how he does it. Then something happens and they do it, they get out of it.
Yeah, emotional investment is key.
Yeah.
And so that setup for the emotional investment is key, but also the stakes need to be clearly defined. And since you walked into the movie world, one of the best setups, I think, is in the Two Towers, the Lord of the Rings trilogy.
Yeah.
When the Battle of Helm's Deep, and we see that they're being surrounded by the orc armies, and you see all the women and children hidden in the caves.
Mm-hmm.
And the elderly men who are too old to fight, and the young boys too young to fight. And you see how terrified they are. And we spend some time with the people who are at risk if the orcs win.
Break through the wall. They break through the wall and get in.
Orcs get in, right. And so you get a better sense of what's at stake. And all you have to do to understand how important that is imagine if that scene had not been there, and if it just been, okay, let's fight some monster orcs, and and Legolas do some cool stunts and whatever. But again, the stakes were set, and we understand. War movies that are good tend to show us that, but action movies also tend to show us that. You mentioned Cameron. We get to know the team in Aliens. We get to know those space marines before they land on the planet and meet Newt and have to fight the hordes of aliens. So we understand who these people are. We want them to survive. And that's important. And the other thing is, if you're doing a martial arts action sequence specifically, it's very nice. And Curtis can speak to this even better than I can even, but it's important to show the action as realistically as possible. You can get stylized with camera work if you want to, but if you're going to do some strikes and kicks and blocks and punches, it would be wonderful to at least try to study a little bit of the style. It helps if the person drawing it is a martial artist, but if they're not, still do it. Totally cool. Study it, watch it. I was working with Mike Barron on a project one time, and this was back when MMA fighter Ronda Rousey was at the top of her form, and he wanted the female character to do a scissor lock takedown and put a bad guy in an armbar. And I remember watching her just do that over and over again on her highlight reel before I drew it. And it helped tremendously, to understand that. So if you're going to use a move, we have this wonderful thing now called YouTube. So look it up, spend the time doing the research. Some people might say, well, it's the boring part of creating a comic. I actually like learning stuff. So it's exciting for me to study things. Give us some examples. Barb, what about you? Give me an example of some research that's related to action, whether it's shooting, whether it's maybe some hand-to-hand fighting that maybe some of your military family has shown you in self-defense mode or something like that. Give me an example of something that you had to actually learn and or research, and then you decided you wanted it to be part of your story.
Also, before we do that, I just want to say I am coloring something, so I'm just going to share my screen. That way people can follow. So go ahead and keep talking. It's just you see something pop up.
I'm going to also answer a couple of questions that have popped up here on Facebook. Cassisi says, no, John Wick is amazing. Blasphemy, Barb. I love the first couple of John Wicks. It's just the last one that they just did, which was just nothing but one long fight from beginning to end. I lost interest. Okay, so
I do think I love John Wick too, but I do feel like they're stretching out the 4 movies, and I was like, I think you guys could have ended it here. So I don't know. If they don't end it in the fourth movie, I'm like, okay, you guys are really milking this. How much can you really throw against this, man? Okay.
And on YouTube, J3 says, what are the preferred handguns in Divinity? I like Glocks. Probably the best. I did have to, and this falls in line with what Dean was asking. I did have to research sniper rifles because obviously I don't have any of those handy. And neither does my son. He uses whatever the military handsome's using,
Right.
an M16. And what I was raised with was Winchester rifles and shotguns, and and a confiscated SS gun that my great uncle took off of a Luger. That my great uncle took off of a dead German SS officer in World War II. So that was my only handgun that I was familiar with. So yes, I do have to do research if we're going to bring in Uzis or sniper rifles, and I can't remember off the top of my head now which sniper rifle I chose. But I will research these. I will online. I will find photo reference for not only RA but for my artists, and I will provide them with that photo reference. I like to not only do research on what weapon to use, but what would be best for that particular circumstance. So for sniper rifles, I don't to shoot ridge from ridge, and for an ordinary soldier, you don't need a top of the line one that's going to be able to snipe from half a mile away. You're going to use a lower down, because these are like shock troops, right? You're going to use a lower down but more precise rifle that is good from a couple of 100 yards, but doesn't necessarily need a half a mile on it. And also you're going to have scopes. So I think I have one around here, a scope. But
if you like guns, like I said, I've talked about Appleseed many a time in here. The guy who created Appleseed, Matsumoto, did Ghost in the Shell. He created his own fictional gun company in the comic because he loved guns so much. And so I learned about all sorts of like interesting and cool guns in there. And he would explain like different ammunition and stuff and how they would affect certain guns. My personal favorite gun is a P90, just because I think they look cool. How much stopping power they have.
A Walther?
No, P90 is it's a German assault rifle.
Oh,
I think it's
right,
German.
right, yeah.
They look very unique. The actual hilt of the gun, so the actual cartridge goes back along the arm, so it's horizontal. And they're very, I don't know, they're very cool. Again, I don't know the caliber, so I think it's basically like an assault rifle. I really like those. A lot of people who do cyberpunk put those in because they look really cool and different. They're a German assault rifle.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's other. I mean, of course, the what is the big famous one? The ones that in all this sorry, it's the big assault rifle everyone buys. I can't remember it. Think of it.
The AR-15.
AR-15.
Yeah.
Yeah, AR-15s. Basic things like that. I mean, I remember.
What about sidearms? What about sidearms, Barb? Marine. What would they use as their sidearm? Just Glocks or what?
Yeah, Glocks. Yeah. Well, you got to remember that they're stateside.
Okay.
So they can't have all the bells and whistles that they would normally have in theater. But I'm sure that they're carrying a knife.
Yeah.
Actually larger than this one. This is a pretty small one, but and their personal weapon, which is a Glock. But they're not going to, at least not in issue 2. They're not going to have access to a weapon stash. That's not saying that won't happen soon.
Oh, nice. If you wanted to use a knife, I'm just saying.
Do a knife.
Well,
use a knife.
Speaking of which, and this is completely off topic, but I just got back from Iowa where we were clearing some old buildings and some weeds and stuff on my brother's estate, and my husband whacked himself in the shin with a machete.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Oh,
that was a quick trip to the clinic. Stop the blood.
You gotta be careful.
Oh yeah, man. I'm sorry to hear that.
It's
funny.
Fine. they glued him back together.
Yeah.
This was a cool action scene in Apples. I was just thinking of action that you can do in your comic. I remember this was, and he would do things in there that he would not really explain. He would just do them. And so the basically Appleseed, it's kind of in the future. There's a woman named Una, and she's the point person, the point man. Brios is like this guy he's hurt in World War III and is a cyborg. That's her backup, right? He's the main, and so she's the point lady, point man. But I remember her like shooting like this one mecha robot was running, and he did it to like in the image where she's unloading her handgun, and they have the cartridges here. So as she's unloading this clip, she pops the other cartridge out, and then pops the cartridge out of the gun and slams it in and keeps shooting it. And it was such a cool sequence. I mean, she's like boom, boom, boom. She drops it and slams it, and like the gun just continuously fires. And I'm like, that was cool. And that's the kind of stuff, if you think of doing action with guns, because there's lots of really cool stuff you can actually do with guns and how they operate and do that. That stuff is really cool. And of course, if you want, well, you'd be ejecting brass. That was the one thing I did like. Cameron knows enough about guns that in Aliens, if you notice that assault rifles don't eject brass because it's all caseless ammunition.
Oh,
he even said
brass is hot too. I mean, you don't want to anywhere near. Yeah, like you see these in these action sequences where they're spraying the guns like this. Those shells are popping back into your face.
Yeah,
most use brass catchers. Yeah,
burn. They're hot.
Yeah, most use brass catchers and stuff. But it looks cool for the movie, but in practicality,
yeah.
No.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, maybe like I'm not saying like check out Ops. I'm just trying to think of anything. Some guy did an entire data book just because the guy, Shiro, would actually watch SWAT training videos and SWAT videos because it was a SWAT team they joined, and he would use these tactics in the combat. He wouldn't explain them. Like there was one with this. It was just like this. She was in a training exercise. She came by and shot this guy around the corner. And as she was diving back, she put another round in the wall next to around the corner here is because that stops him from popping back out and shooting her. So he shot her twice, and she put another round in the wall to bait it. And then he never explained it. And some guy in a data book's like, this is that technique. This is actually.
I can remember the first time I ever touched a hot shell. I was just a child.
Oh yeah.
And my dad had his 22 out, and there was a coon up in the tree, and he shot the coon in the ejected the shell, and I'm like, oh, pretty, picked it up.
Another good reference, guys, is Aaron. You were talking about Appleseed. Another great reference for sort of cyberpunk is Ghost in the Shell, the animated.
Same
movie.
writer, same guy wrote Appleseed. He did the same thing.
That walking to that spider tank.
Yes,
is so cool. But again, the fights in that movie, the gunfighting in that movie advances the story forward.
Yes.
Reveals character, and that's the most important part. You've got to advance the story. You got to reveal character, and it's wonderful if you're taking the story from point A to point D, and it's not just a gratuitous fight. Right. Now, when I'm drawing a comic book fight page, and I'm in the middle of one right now, and I just have 6 pages because of the limitations of this anthology thing that we're working on at Silverline. And I had to throw in at least 2 pages of a fight scene. So I've got 2 pages, and I want to advance the story. So what I've got to do is find a way to not have it gratuitous. Tell us something about the villain in the scene and the heroine in the scene, and tell a little bit about her capabilities versus the villain's capabilities. And then get us in, get us out quickly, but how you make that interesting. So what I try to do is vary camera angles, and you can also do some very interesting things with using, I don't know if you guys have ever seen artists do this, but they'll do a close-up visual in the center of the page to anchor the page. I'm actually doing this on page 4. And then they'll have almost vignettes surrounding it of the fight going on. So you still get your splash image to anchor the piece. And then you'll get like a duel. And in this particular scene, it's a duel between 2 daggers and a kukri knife, which for those of you who know, kukri knife is one of those bent knives. It looks like a machete, a little longer than usual, but it's kind of bent. But so the duel is happening, but I've got to find a way to reveal something about the villain, reveal something about the hero, their skill sets, but also how wicked the bad guy is, you know, maybe some nastier cheating moves, how skilled she is or maybe isn't at avoiding getting hurt, right? So again,
Right.
you have to go into the psychology of your two characters. It's always good to go in, if it's a duel between, you know, a good guy and a bad guy, you know, tell something about the good guy and the bad guy. Like, tell something about
And
them.
how
Don't just
far
make it
they're
a
willing to
fight that's a
go.
meaningless fight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know.
One thing that I've touched on in Divinity is how far is Zach willing to go to protect his sister or get her out of a situation or himself out of a situation? And the answer is he'll pretty much, you know, do what it takes. And I had to sculpt scenes where I had to pull the penciler back a bit and say, okay, this one, I mean, he's point blank going to shoot this guy. That's it.
Right.
Because I mean, he's still alive, but he's angry and he's going to point blank shoot him. But we need to keep this comic also out of our X rating for blood and gore. So instead, we see in one panel we see him pointing the gun at the guy, and then the next panel you see a close up of his face, and he's basically saying "Hasta la vista, baby," and you know, and you see a splatter of blood. So you don't actually see them shooting him, but you know what's going on. You know he's shooting this guy point blank in the face.
You know, strange enough, one of my favorite action scenes in a movie was the introduction to the original Blade movie. There's just something about that scene. That scene was pretty short. So I was thinking of Dean's scene. I mean, I don't know. Is that scene short? It's pretty short. I don't know. When you said like 2 pages to an action scene, I was like, my heart goes out to you, Dean. Good luck, buddy. You know,
I know, right?
I was like, that's yeah.
I got to be
Especially
real
the betrayed
creative, you know.
Yeah.
Because what I've got to do is I spent the first 3 pages revealing the stakes, right? So once the action starts, because I only got a 6-page window, so I've got to give you some really fun dueling action, and I've got to have beginning, a middle, and an end to the fight. But I also have to show you, you know, okay, here's the skill level of this character. Here's the, you know, I would say villainy level of this character. Here's the hero level of this character. But what's important too is think about eye movement on the page, because as an artist, again, you want that Z formation where, you know, you come in upper left, you go across, you diagonally back down, and then you exit the page. For the most part, all rules are meant to be broken for those who've mastered the rules.
And I think the 90s broke that rule for 1 decade, didn't they?
Yeah, right.
I love your 90s, but yeah.
Let's do a book with all splash pages.
Yeah. So the thing is, you find a way to hold on to that template and yet make it fresh and new. I tell people one of my jobs is not just to draw pretty pictures, but to take the rules of comic book storytelling that are old as comic books and make them new with every new page I draw. Make it new, make it fun, make it unexpected. And that's one reason, you know, it takes me longer than I'd like it to do pages, because what I do is I come up with the solution that's the most obvious. And then I go, okay, but that's what everybody's expecting. So let's push it a little bit further. But then that's only a little bit further. So let's push it a little bit further than that, right? So it takes me a little longer to get a page, but hopefully people absorb that. I do that with my designs as well. As, okay, this is what people expect. So let's go 2 or 3 steps beyond that, so that hopefully you get that and you see it and you go, oh, cool. Maybe I never would have thought of that. Or maybe you go, yeah, that's what I expected. But hopefully you don't.
Yeah.
Hopefully you're a little bit surprised. So I encourage people, if you're going to do a fight scene, if it's hand to hand and it's martial arts, and I use that in the broadest sense, you know, including Western, you know, boxing and wrestling and everything. You know, if it's weaponless fighting, do your research. You can watch anything now on YouTube, and make it real, make it authentic. You know, give it that anchor of reality. You know, unless you're doing just pure cartoon fantasy, in which case it doesn't matter. But even your stuff, Aaron, that is in that more fantastic cartoon world, it has a weight to it. It has a risk to it. It has an impact to it because you spent time. I mean, here are these completely non-human characters, but we care about them, and because I've read it. We care about them because they've revealed their emotions to the reader. They've shown us who they are by their actions and their behavior. So if something bad happens to them, you feel it.
Yeah,
it's not just cardboard cutouts.
Now,
that was the idea with the reveal at the end. Yeah, was getting that. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Barb.
No, I was going to touch on him talking about the martial arts comics. One of the books that I'm looking forward to from Silverline is to see Curtis's book, because Sifu is actually doing a martial arts book, and it will be interesting to see it from his perspective because he actually is a master of martial arts. So
yes.
The one thing I always
go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. I was saying the one thing I've always, when it comes to martial arts comics or fighting, one thing I've always tried to do is keep my characters a little off balance. So I try to draw the poses, or try to do the poses so they're not very stiff. Superheroes have the very, the punch. Like, watch a lot of Jackie Chan films. Watch how that guy fights. I mean, he knows what he's doing, but it always looks like he's about to fall over or fall off or do that. So if you can have the arms like, like if you have a guy, punching, instead of doing the punch, have him like punch with maybe his leg off, like one of his back legs off the ground, like he's really driving his punch. That I'm working with motion. That idea is I'm trying to capture motion and stuff in there. And that's like one of my favorite movies as far as action is the movie The Raid. Have you ever seen the 2 Raid movies? Yeah. Those are just fantastic. And just watch how those guys move or whatever. If you can capture that movement in a drawing, which is, God knows, I've been trying to do it. That's fantastic. But it's fun just to watch those guys go off or whatever. Yeah.
One of the more recent ones too, if you like The Raid, is Ip Man with Donnie Yen.
Yeah, yes,
right.
The Ip Man movie.
Watch Donnie Yen just go crazy. And we spoke about this last week. Is the never talked about underrated Ninja Assassin, which has got some of the coolest fight scenes in it. They're over the top, they're fun, they're crazy, but boy, they're a lot of entertainment here.
Yeah,
it's very entertaining.
Another thing that most people don't realize about movies, about action movies, is in order to do it for the camera, you have to slow down the actual action to like half speed. I've seen other actors talk about practicing for their roles in doing their motions at about half speed of what they would actually do in real life, because the action or the cameras don't like them at actual speed. So what you're seeing in the movies is actually not real. I mean, as far as what it would look, if you were in a real fight, everything would be blurred, much faster.
Yep.
They tell that to Bruce Lee. They kept telling Bruce, you got to slow down. We can't see you. The camera can't see you.
I don't know if you guys know who Adrian Paul is, the guy who played the Highlander in the TV
Adrian
series
Paul,
from the 90s.
Yeah.
So I had the good fortune to be able to do a sword training seminar with him last summer, and I think it was 2 summers ago. Sorry. Anyway, it was amazing to actually be able to cross swords with someone who is a master swordsman in terms of for the camera. But when he started moving fast, it's a blur. It's like what you say, Mark.
Yeah.
You had to be ready. And we just wore out those boken. We had, the wooden swords that you train with. And I mean, I still have the one he signed, and it is splintered and dented from, because once we went through, got to the end of the seminar, and we actually choreographed fights, executed the fight, he would go full speed. And so we would, set aside our partner, and he would show it, train with us. And so there was that moment, and I'm sitting across, I've crossed swords, and I'm thinking to myself, wait a minute, this guy is, the TV Highlander. So you better remember your moves. You're going to get slaughtered here. But it was fun to be able to do that. But again, it was very fast. It was faster than you would think for the camera, because this thing is swinging at your head. And it's amazing that more people don't get hurt, using weapons on television shows and movies and so on. So they have to choreograph it over and over. And that's how we started. We started our sequence. It was 12 moves. Started very slowly. You walk through it over and over and over and over again until you got it memorized like a dance. But one thing I would also recommend people do when you're doing a fight scene, always draw the extremes. And you know this, Aaron, because you probably read it in like How to Draw Comics or whatever. But for those who haven't, you never draw the impact. That's the most boring part. You draw the wind up, pulling all the way back, and then you draw all the way through the completed, right? And it's always more impactful to show the recoil of the bad guy or the good guy, whoever's getting hit. The recoil, right? And then the over-exaggerated, like you were saying, the over-exaggerated motion of the person throwing the punch or the kick. Because what you want it to do is give you motion, right? And let's be honest, sometimes the proper execution of a move is not that exciting. So people who are, a sifu or a sensei might look at something and go, well, that's not really how to do that side kick or that spinning back kick or the spinning wheel kick or whatever you're drawing. But they understand, because I've talked to them, like, but I understand what you're trying to do. The scene has to sell. It has to sizzle either off the screen or off the page. So you got to exaggerate it a little bit. So once again, as we've talked about before, reference is great. Don't be a slave to the reference where it kills the power of the scene. I had a discussion with a colleague in comics back when I first started, and we were having a little argument about accuracy versus power.
Yeah.
And I said, look, if I'm going to err on the side of one of those, I'd rather it be power than accurate. That's just me, though. That's my taste. A lot of people will be like, yeah, but you drew it wrong. But so did Frazetta, But it looks badass. If it's jumping off the page and you can't stop looking at it, the impact is there, right? As an artist, that's more what I'm concerned about. And if somebody says, yeah, but that safety is not drawn in the right position on the side of that weapon. It's actually a half an inch above where you drew it.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, it's just really, that's irrelevant. At this point, it's irrelevant because, again, even if it's anchored in reality, there's a level of fantasy. Even John Wick, I mean, he's doing what no human being could really do, right? Even though it's anchored in realistic gun fu, we could call it.
Right.
It's gun fu, and it could be done, but it's probably not going to be done quite that pretty in real life. Because, if you've watched enough MMA, you realize that fighting is not as pretty as it is in the kung fu and the karate movies.
No.
It's kind of brutal.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
One of the things I really liked about Die Hard, especially the first one, was that he progressively got bloodier as the movie went on.
Yes.
He was walking in on glass with bare feet, and oh my God, it was just like horrible, but it was realistic. He wasn't, it was showing, and you were right, the reaction. I love reaction scenes. After, they get hit and stuff like that.
After they get hit. Remember the scene in Raiders of the Lost Ark when Indiana Jones he's at the aircraft, right? He's at the airfield, and that big German guy, walks up to him. He's taking off his shirt. He can't wait to just beat down this American, right? That's smaller than he is, and you see that look in Indy's face, like, oh man, this is gonna hurt.
Yeah.
And first punch, and
he just sits on the ground.
Man, that blood is pouring out of his nose. And it's like, there's no way. It's Indy's brains that get him out of that situation, right? He just sets himself up where the guy's going to get hit by the propeller, right? And that's how he gets out of that, because physically he cannot outfight this character. He's got to outthink the character. And that's the brilliance of Die Hard 1. And there's a little bit of that with Lethal Weapon 1 too. They did a pretty good job.
I love the Lethal Weapon movies.
Lethal Weapon 1 especially is pretty brutal because as crazy as Mel is, he's getting hurt, and you can feel that, and see the pain. And I like to do that with characters too. One thing you'll notice when I draw things, I don't know if you do this, Aaron, or if you write this way, Barb, but I like to have weathering and battle damage on my characters, right?
Yeah.
I don't want them to, when I get to the end of the story, I want costumes ripped. I want shredded, shirts and sleeves. I want cuts. I want bloodied faces. I want to look like you've been through something.
Yeah, one of the things that irks me most about a lot of TV shows is that it'll be this brutal fighting for the entire show, and then the last wrap-up scene, they all come together. Oh, that was really good, and they're all, there's no damage. This is like the next day, right? The next day, they're all sitting around the table congratulating each other on a job well done, and maybe this one might have a little scratch on his lip, and but just. In real life, their faces would be puffy and the eyes would be closed. And I've had a broken nose. I look like a raccoon, but no raccoons. No.
This is like the same thing when people get their arms or hands cut off and they just put it under their arm. And like, that's really supposed to stench the blood. I don't think that's going to work there, G. And they wrap it in a towel. And I'm like, I don't really think a towel's going to stop you from dying within minutes of blood loss. There's just no, I mean, what's going to happen is that towel's going to start filling up with blood.
Yeah, I just went through that. I got that towel right so tight around his shin that it stopped bleeding by the time we got to the clinic.
Yeah.
I'm all for if you guys want to do some believable action in your books. Don't be afraid to beat up your leading characters, your leading ladies, your leading men. Beat them up and show the wear and tear, because there's something satisfying, and there's a weight to the story at the end. Like both of these action movies we've been discussing, Die Hard. At the end of the movie, he can barely stand up. He's so beat up. Same thing with Lethal Weapon. Mel can barely stand after that fight in the front yard. Don't be afraid to do that. Don't be afraid to beat up your characters. I even like it when famous characters, because Batman's a human being, right? So I always loved it in Nolan's movies where he looked like he was hurting, I appreciate it.
You'd see Alfred wrapping his ribs or something,
Yeah. Because
I also did like that in the third Batman movie, which, regardless if you like it or not, the fact like he has no cartilage in his knees, he has a walker, he has a cane. He is like, his body's had you can only do. I'm like, that's realistic, and he put on that knee brace, and like, I hope this holds or whatever. But when he was going, like, they showed just the wear and tear of this guy doing this all the time. It's like, it just destroyed his body.
Okay, we have some comments again from Kasisi on Facebook. He says, Equilibrium gun kata is an example of what Dean is saying. Or Equilibrium, the movie Equilibrium. And then he says,
movie Equilibrium,
about erring on the side of power or exaggeration as opposed to reality, and it looks amazing on the screen.
Yeah.
Good observation. We appreciate that, because that's true. And Equilibrium is a very odd movie. I would say it's a boutique movie. It's a cult movie, but it has some amazing moves in it. It's sort of the precursor to where John Wick took that idea to a much more sophisticated and advanced form. But definitely worth seeing if it's on, or cable or whatever, and you want to watch it. It's fun to watch because it's before Christian Bale was Batman.
And another place to study action, if you want to study more action and draw it, is video games. Especially if you play video games, you can get some. I remember one of the best, and this game needs more love. It's a game called Vanquish. It was such a cool game. It was a guy that was in this mechanical suit, but he had these jets kind of just on the side of his knee. So if he like slid on the ground on his knees, he would actually jet across the ground. Ouch. And you could slow down. You can slow down time and like shoot things that way and stuff. But the whole concept, I just like was playing this game and like how fast, and the fact that my eyes are keeping track of all this, and the fast as I'm playing it and the slowing down, I was like, man, again, I'm always like, if you could distill this in a comic book, that would be awesome. Video games are great at doing action scenes. Ninja Gaiden games are another one. Like just look how they, move them and stuff. Yeah. Very
okay.
fun.
I got one for you, and you'll probably remember this. Both you guys are old enough to, but a lot of our viewers and listeners may not. And that is, there's a movie called Kiss of the Dragon, starring Jet Li.
Yeah,
I don't know if you guys have seen it.
I have,
but it's one of the best fight scenes where he walks into a room of this corrupt police station, and all the policemen are black belts. It's like a black belt class, and here's diminutive, smaller Jet Li walking in, right? And they all turn and they're like all excited because here's this little Chinese guy and they're gonna go beat him up, and he just takes out this entire class. And it's a great study, not only in his style, which I believe is Wing Chun mostly, but it's amazingly shot. It's a great place to get moves from. I would say that movie, Fist of Legend, the movies you've mentioned. Obviously now we've got, John Wick, obviously the Matrix films now.
Yeah.
That's more wire-fu though.
It is. The Matrix, I don't think, is supposed to be super. I mean, it's realistic to the point that actually it looks more martial arts, but Keanu Reeves and Lawrence Fishburne, I love them to death, but they're just not trained. And you could totally tell somebody who's trained than this is somebody who's not, because they're just moving with a much more quickness and assuredness that somebody's not trained. And you could just see it.
Yes, absolutely. We're getting close to the time here where we may want to start talking about our special event. So maybe, Aaron, if you want to message Roland, I know he wanted to come in at some point and start talking about our special event. But until he gets here, why don't you tell us about what you're working on right now, Aaron? Like, what's the next thing we need to be looking at from you? I see some cool art on the screen. Tell us about the project.
Let me see here. StreamYard. I'm going to bring you guys back up. This is issue 11 of Godlings.
Okay.
And
Awesome.
so this is kind of just before the final issue. So this is actually leading up to the big finale. This is a newer character. It's towards the end. So this, again, how I stretch out the action scenes, I stretch out conversations. This is a conversation between these two that is 6-7 pages long. But I force you, I want you, again, I think we talked about maybe this last time, I want you to slow down with the conversations and just enjoy it, kind of read quicker. So there's dialogue in the page, but I want to stretch it out because I want to get more reactions in the characters about what they're talking about. So I do slow it down. I guess I've just always I've read so many comics that want to get from point A to point B so fast. Mm-hmm. And it's like, well, we got to talk about this one plot point. So they take a page and they talk about it one page. And I'm like, yeah, you just got to slow it down and let it breathe. One who's really good at letting things breathe was Jeff Smith's Bone. Because if you actually, if you love, you could, if you wanted to, you can probably take that whole book and compress it into like half, because there's a lot of stuff in that's not really necessary, but it makes the story that much richer because it slows it down.
I have all of the graphic novels of them.
I actually do have one of his original hardbacks. There's only 1,000 made, and I have it signed by him with gold leaf or whatever. Yeah. So I had to hunt that down. And that's on my shelf, and it's all pretty. And because I was like, they made a hardback of it, and so I had to hunt it down. But yeah, I love Bone. But there's stuff like that. So this is a scene about the second to last page of this issue. And they're talking about this one. They're talking about, I think it's free will versus fate. This is why I kind of go in a little bit of philosophy. And then he's
Mr.
also talking about,
moment.
then he's talking about the creation of the universe. This is where he describes basically the gods were these aliens that were, they were dying. And so they created their own universe and went into it. And they so they were trying to escape their fate. So they went into it, but to basically make sure this universe survives forever, they wanted to run in a perfect order and stuff. So they're discussing that here. And then and then the next issue. And the next issue, I usually thumbnail my stuff like 3 pages at a time, and then draw them. But the next issue, I might have to thumbnail the whole thing out because I want to nail the ending. I have the ending in mind, but I want to add a few things. The other thing I was going to show you as far as action was like, let me see here. I will stop sharing this, and then I will share something else. This is a scene when we were talking about impact.
Okay.
I'll go away real quick. So this is in one of my stories. Like she's and this guy with the staff is talking. He gets stuck with this. They could do magic. So they have this dirt come up and grab his feet. He's like, "You trying to trap me again? Will you ever learn?" It's like, and Sage is this one like a rabbit creature. You learn more history behind her, and so with pleasure. So to make sure, leave it on the page. It's the end of the page. So the next page is just this like crack. I mean, and then it just knocks him. But I tried to draw that she seems a little off balance, like the arms kind of flailing over her head, the knees kind of coming out. So there's a few things I'm trying to twist the body. So, and of course, when you see the foot, you see the actual feet wrinkling into his skin. So she's pushing him along with kicking him. So, and then that was the one hit. So it's like really just supposed to be like she's grinding up, and then it's just this, and then knocks him out, and then they take off.
That's amazing.
So like that's what I've been trying to work on. It's like if I'm not doing motion, that when I do those scenes, I want to I'm working on that impact.
Yes.
So yeah. So.
Well, Barb? What about you? Like, what's coming up that we need to? What issue are we on Divinity?
Alex is about halfway through penciling Divinity number 3.
Okay.
And while he's doing that, I'm doing the inks on Cat and Mouse number 4. So
and that's the original one, right? The original series?
The original 4-issue mini. And they've already got the next series or extension on that in the works, but we need to wrap up the first one. So while I'm doing that, Alex is penciling Divinity 3. Divinity 4 has already been scripted, and I've made my changes to it. And while that's also all going on, I'm also coloring Sirens, which I've already colored the first 64 page graphic novel Sirens. What that is it's an old black and white graphic novel from back in the 90s, and we are recoloring it and re-releasing it with colors. And then now I've started on the second graphic novel because we haven't released the first one yet. But
have they ever released it, or was this something that was unpublished before?
No. It was released originally way back when, but we have the rights to it, so we're going to release it at some point. I don't know what, but we've got so many things in the pipeline.
Oh, I know. I know it's exciting right now at Silverline. All this stuff is happening now. Just for nostalgia's sake, you guys think about it. Give me your most memorable comic fight action scene, just off the top of your head. Like it was like, oh man, that was just so cool. And then I'll give you an inspired.
I mean, the ones that we worked on, or
no, it could be anything. Just ones you saw and inspired you as you were reading a comic book. It could be in the 90s. Now.
This one wasn't so much a fight scene as the aftermath of a fight scene.
Okay.
And that was the famous Piata pose where Spider-Man is holding Tony Stark after he's died in Civil War II.
Oh wow.
That one was just a classic and clearly a ripoff of the Piata.
Yeah. That's interesting. So that inspired you. What about you, Aaron? I know you mentioned some Masamune Shiro material.
Yeah, Shiro. He's always been a big one. I'm trying to think of other ones. That's a good one. Action scenes. I really like the stuff in Akira's one, but the still one action scene. I really like the one I just told you where she had the gun and popped the clip in.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm going through my head and trying to think of all my favorite stories.
Another one in comics is when Wolverine Magneto pulls out his his adamantium.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, that was like, wow.
Yes.
That
How
was
cool is that, huh?
dramatic. That was super
I know,
dramatic.
right?
I remember there was
Um,
one. Did you guys ever read Alien Legion at all?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. There was one with like Jugger Grimrod that was like, it was a single issue, but he was talking about like breaking into this place, and he was like reporting this heroic story to his commander that he did everything right. And of course, what they're showing is he was like this guy, like I think he was trying to steal something and messed up
Uh-huh.
and like inadvertently did this. And of course, they like promoted him. And I remember like he was all like, I don't ever want to be promoted because he's like a thief and a cad, and he doesn't
Right.
want this. So by trying to look impressive in front of his commander, he got a promotion. He's like, no, that was a pretty good. And that whole story is a one big action scene of him breaking into this building and doing stuff. So that was pretty funny.
That's cool. That's
Yeah,
cool.
trying to think of like, yeah, of like straight action scenes. It's funny. I've been rereading Sin City again, and they
Mhm.
have some pretty good
Mhm.
action scenes in there. I did like the one at the end of the story called "The Big Fat Kill,"
Yes.
where they
Uh-huh.
quarantine everyone in the alley. And it's basically reference to 300 of the Greeks with the battle Thermopylae, I think it was. Where they,
Yeah.
where they
Yes.
cut. I really liked that one. So.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
So
I
yeah,
like that
he
too.
does a pretty good job in this. Frank Miller's always done a pretty good job of doing it. As far as a straight up action issue, it's one of my favorites. There was a Ninja Turtle one, then the old Ninja Turtles of Kevin Eastman, where he's fighting in the snow. Leonardo is during Christmas, he's fighting in the snow. The Foot are attacking. That whole scene, he does like sequential or like scene to scene action, and that whole issue is awesome as far as just straight up action. And I
Very
can't. We'd have to look it up. The issue. I know it's Leonardo fighting the Foot, and like he's out practicing, and he gets jumped by the Foot, and then they have this huge battle, and it was amazing. It was awesome. That's one of the things that inspired me as far as action. I'm like, that's the kind of action I want to draw in comics and stuff.
Mhm.
So
And,
yeah,
and speaking of 300, the movie 300, I thought was
yeah.
amazingly well shot. I
Mhm.
love
Beautifully
the
shot.
action.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
That I do like. Whether you like Zack Snyder's storytelling, I do think he can actually shoot action very well. And that you
Yes.
follow it. You're able to follow what's going on, and he has those pauses and stuff that I think are
Yeah,
really good.
he's heavily influenced by comic books, and
Mhm.
in many interviews. I'm one of those geeks who watches the making of documentaries
Yeah.
and a lot of the
Oh my god,
DVDs. And so,
nerd!
yeah, I know, right? And so, in a lot of them, he especially that one, he's talking about how in order to capture the feel of a comic book, that's why he does that slowdown in the
Mhm.
midst of motion, and he's been copied so often now, But he was one of the first who would freeze, motion. I mean, I know it was done in the Matrix as well, and that's probably the first time it was done. But as
Right.
far as literally nodding to or a tribute to a comic book sequence in 300, you see those scenes and you'll see them rear back to hit one another, and it'll slow down and then go back to full
Yeah.
speed.
Mhm.
It's a beautiful way to sort of echo a comic book, because what we call it in the business is sweet spots, right? You find the sweet spot of the fight, and that's what you capture, so that it's so good that the reader fills in the lesser important keyframes.
Yeah.
If you're animating, you call it a keyframe, right? So what we want to do is draw the keyframes, and then the reader fills in what happens in between.
What do you think about James Cameron's fight scenes?
Oh gosh, I'm trying to
Trying
think which movies in terms of like Terminator 2,
Yeah.
Judgment Day. Those are more spectacle. I remember those more as spectacle than
Yeah.
storytelling. I remember the awe of, oh gosh, this thing's made out of liquid metal and it can do anything, and then what's going to happen next. So it was more a fireworks show. But the first movie where she's trying to get away and Reese is protecting her from the Terminator, that was more straight up linear, action to tell a
Right.
story. We knew the risk, we knew she was a target for this unstoppable machine killer. And so, again, that was more direct. I enjoyed that more. The other movies tended to be, how much bigger can the fireworks get? And that's the nature
Yeah.
of things. It's not really a knock. It's just the nature of that. Same thing with John Wick. Same thing with Indiana Jones. Same thing with The Matrix.
Transformers?
Transformers was just it's a lot. You know, strange enough, some of my favorite action scenes by Zack Snyder in his movie Sucker Punch.
Yeah.
He did some
Yep.
really good action scenes. That movie, I know nobody liked that movie. I like that movie. I don't know. I like all Zack Snyder. I mean, I like his stuff, but and that's okay. Everyone I tell that to, like I like the
what?
DC, I like the DC movies more than the Marvel movies, and they're just like, oh, we take away your nerd cred. I'm like, okay, whatever.
As far as awe-inspiring, I would have to say Lord of the Rings movie when Gandalf comes up over the mountains on his white horse with the horde behind him,
right.
and they're coming down into the valley, and then I was just like, it gave the hair stood up on the back of my neck, you know, it gave me chills on my arms. I just love that so much. It was so powerful.
Combination that inspired me to share this of best opening for a sequel and action scene that was unexpected and wonderfully done. Opening of Two Towers, when we start in with the memory from Frodo of Gandalf facing the Balrog and falling and falling and falling, and how they keep fighting as they're falling. And you're like, man, how long do they fall? It just goes on forever. But it just looked so cool, and it was such a great way to open the film. You know, it was like, oh man, you know, this is like, there's only a few sequels to me where the opening gets you so fired up for the movie that it's almost better than the original movie, and that's Godfather Part 2, Two Towers, and Empire Strikes Back. Just those three films. It's like you're already fired up because you loved the first one, but it's like, oh my gosh, this is even better, and it's a sequel, it's even better. So yeah, you can do that. You know, sequential, man. It's all about sequential. Aaron, I shared a couple of pages from an old comic I did about 10 years ago in your Facebook Messenger. I don't know if you can screen share.
Let me see that. Yeah, I might be able to do that.
If you can. It features kind of what I'm talking about storytelling, but also kind of doing a splash page at the same time, because I always try to overreach and do too much. So what I try to do is a splash page that also tells a story, that's also an action sequence, that's also interesting, that's also unpredictable. So I'm trying to do it all together. These couple of pages kind of show what I'm talking about. It's just to set it up, it's a female characters being chased by an alien monster in the woods, which could be pretty boring, right?
Can you guys see that?
Seeing this opening, yes, I can.
Okay.
You've seen the opening panel. She's spraying the monster with mace, right? And so the second panel, the monster recoils, and we sort of get that look of shock and horror from her. I wanted the scene to almost be a fisheye lens effect, as you see, right?
Yeah.
And then in the last shot, that's what I'm talking about. I isolate the figure running, but I wanted to really show a close-up of how angry this alien creature was after being sprayed in the face with mace, right? With bear mace.
You get a sense that this is danger. I mean, now there's like, you know, you can see him glaring at her like, okay,
it's like, I'm really mad now. Right?
Yeah.
I'm really mad. So again, splash page, storytelling, setting up the action, and
just let me know when you want to go to the next page.
Okay, go ahead and go to the next page.
Oh, wait.
I'm going to interrupt you here for a second.
Okay.
Can I interrupt
still
you
running, so you guys can see what's going on here. She's still running, and this creature so angry and so powerful. Again, I wanted him slamming down at her so hard. This literally, debris is going up. So impact. And then as a little homage there to the Alien movies, where he's just sort of grinning at her and she's turning her head to the side in panel 3, right? And then she's about to try to spray him again. And we get that backhand and the flyaway shot, right? So again, it's just an example of what I try to do is let's keep it moving forward. So again, sheer power of the villain in the shot, the fear of the regular human being being pursued here. But also, let's make it splashy. Let's make it big. And, for those of you familiar with the 90s sensibilities of weird panels and insets and close-ups and, I'm a big fan of all that because that's really where I
Yeah.
cut my teeth on comics.
We have
is
a
that, so.
comment here on YouTube.
Awesome.
Hyper Potato says, for one, he starts out, Bone is a timeless classic. Jeff Smith really created something special. And then he says about action, he says, Russ Heath drew Sergeant Rock punching the Iron Major into a wall, which crumbles and reveals skeletons. So that's an action scene that advances the plot.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's inspiring too. Very much so.
And he goes,
very cool.
He also says the thing in the boxing match with the champion from the Marvel 2 in one annual, the 2-in-1 annual. So I really like the one with the Sergeant Rock, in which that action reveals a mystery, reveals skeletons.
Well, you saw that page, Dean, in the Goblins where he gets slammed into the side of the cliff. I did like a full page. Yeah, drawing the impact of that. So
yes.
It looks like we have.
I love how epic and big. You know, when you action, what you're doing is something that's fantastic and epic in a space opera sense.
Yeah.
You know, it's operatic. That's like the word that comes to mind with your work is that you can get lulled into a sense of safety with some of the quieter, playful scenes of the characters. But man, when you unleash, it just really unleashes. Like that
was my idea.
Explosive.
My big inspiration for my action scenes for that series was Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah, I can see
strangely enough.
I can totally see it.
Yay,
Okay,
there he is. There's the man.
Leader. Welcome, Roland.
What's up, everyone? Hold on. Oops, I forgot to shut my door. Hang on.
We're having a great night, and we are very excited about the special, unprecedented event that you're going to be discussing with us tonight. Take it away, Roland.
Yeah. I heard Barb mention Hyper Potato. What's up, Hyper? Yeah, and so I do apologize for our regulars who are listening tonight. We had some technical difficulties, and I forgot to tell these guys until I don't know, 45 minutes into the stream that they're going to have to monitor the actual chat on YouTube and Facebook and everything. We're going to get that fixed, but for tonight, that's totally my fault. So I forgot to tell them that. So you guys know, if you've been following us, you know what time it is. I'm sure you've been seeing our social media post. We're getting ready to launch a Kickstarter. And so we're so excited. Let me back that up just a bit. We're getting ready to launch a crowdfunding campaign. And so I'm excited to announce that Kalis is going to be the first of our miniseries that will be complete. We've got a couple others that are really close, but the campaign that we're about to run is going to wrap up the Kalis story. Most of the things that we're doing are 4-issue miniseries. We've got a couple of 3-issue miniseries. Kalis is a 4-issue miniseries. So we're going to be campaigning to complete the story, which includes issues 3 and 4. But this time, can I get a drum roll? Okay. This time, we're going to launch not just a Kickstarter, but we're going to launch an Indiegogo. And I must confess, I am extremely nervous about the whole thing just because we've never done one. I've backed Indiegogos before. Still waiting on a couple of them, but I've backed Indiegogos before. So it's not that I'm completely unfamiliar with the platform. It's just that I have never set it all up. I look over here because that's where it all is. It's on my other monitor there. I have never set one up and tried to make sure all the pieces and parts are in the right places. So I'm extremely nervous about that. But so let me be clear to say, these two campaigns, the Kickstarter and the Indiegogo, are going to be concurrent. Now, I don't know exactly how Indiegogo ends, so I think it's going to give us the option to go in demand. And if it does that, I'll probably take that because we've got to wait 2 weeks for funds from Kickstarter anyway. So, but that's something I'm just going to have to, I'll have to figure out when we cross that bridge. but no, what I was going to say is that you do not need to pledge to both campaigns. Obviously, we don't want to discourage you if you're like, no, I want to back you guys. I want to get a Kickstarter and the Indiegogo. Great, but please do know that they're the same books. So you're it's not like you're going to get a different book if you back the Indiegogo than if you back the Kickstarter. There is one exception. Britt and I talked about this a long time. Because we did the first 2 issues on Kickstarter, we said, we kind of need to do a little something as a bit of a reward for those on Kickstarter who backed us. So we have an exclusive double-sized issue 3 and 4. It collects 3 and 4. It's just a double-sized issue, kind of like what we did with Trump. It's the same size as our flip books, only it's not going to be a flip book. It's just going to be the double-sized issue 3 and 4. So that's only going to be available on Kickstarter. But as far as the individual issues and the trades, that's going to be the same thing. So if you're really like, well, I really want to back on both campaigns, here's what I would suggest you do. Okay, decide that you're going to get the trade on Indiegogo, and then maybe get the Kickstarter 3 and 4, and then maybe the individual issues if you don't have those on Kickstarter. So you get 2 different things. Barb's got something to say?
Yes.
Or you would...
Is Indiegogo going to give them the opportunity to add issues from
I could not figure out how to do that.
Projects?
If I can figure out how to do that, I'll add it, but I have not been able to figure out how to do that. I have looked and looked and looked and looked, and I don't see add-ons at all, other than having to do them the way you used to have to do them on Kickstarter, which is a royal pain. And I said, I'm not going to do that. So
if you want other books from Silverline besides Kalis, you should go to Kickstarter.
Yes, yeah. That's why I'm saying I'm really kind of pushing the idea of the trade on Indiegogo, because I know the Indiegogo backers tend to like little meatier projects. You don't see a whole lot of I don't have a. You don't see a lot of floppies. I got a floppy right here somewhere. I mean, what am I? I'm in a room full of comics. How can I not get a?
There's got to be a floppy.
I got to. It's the Indiegogo doesn't really like.
Right.
They don't really like the floppies, right? So,
yeah.
I mean, I've seen them, but most of them they're longer than this. They're bigger books. So if I were to push anything, it would be the trade on Indiegogo, and then the regular issues, and as well as back issues on Kickstarter. So if you've got questions about how it's going to work on Indiegogo, I don't know the answer to that. I mean, this is number 12, I think. I've lost count. Isn't this number 12 or is it number 13 for Kickstarter? I've lost count. I
think it might be 13.
Yeah, it might be 13.
I think it is. Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's 13. So I'm pretty comfortable with the Kickstarter platform just because we've done so many of them, and so I kind of know how that works. If you got a question for me, I can kind of answer that. But the Indiegogo platform, I'm gonna have to figure it out as we go along. So
for those new to it, Roland, give us like the general difference for people who may not even be familiar with why some people choose one over the other.
So obviously there's a lot of, which we won't go into, there's a lot of political reasons that some folks decide they're going to choose one platform or the other. That's not us. We're just making comics, and we believe that people who are on both platforms are going to like our books. The really big difference that from like where I see it, the really big difference is that Kickstarter is an all or nothing. Okay. Mm-hmm. So we set a goal on Kickstarter, and it's like, our goal is X dollars. If we don't make it on Kickstarter, we don't get anything. I mean, we get zero. So it's an all or nothing kind of thing. On Indiegogo, you can set your goal, and let's just say, because we're kind of tiptoeing our way around. So we set our goal for 500 on Indiegogo. Well, let's say we get 250. We don't make our goal on Indiegogo. We still get the funds from Indiegogo because it's not an all or nothing. It's kind of like, hey, you didn't make your goal, but here's still the money for you to do. And so, yeah, that's really the kind of the big difference. As far as the backers go, it's kind of the same thing. If you pledge to Kickstarter, they don't take your money from you until the campaign is over. So if you pledge and the campaign does not make, your money never leaves your account, right? But you know what happens is you pledge, and then the minute the campaign finishes, it's like, hey, you know, you guys made it. Now we're going to collect all the money up from the folks who pledged. On Indiegogo, they take your money immediately.
Okay.
So
Which I actually like that. Because
yeah,
I always forget, like at the end of the month, like, wait, is that? Oh, that's that charge. I'm like, what?
yeah.
And then at the end of the month, and most people are between paychecks. It's like they couldn't do it like second week of the month or some end of the month or whatever.
Yeah.
So I think our biggest challenge, and I, you know, I put this on the Indiegogo page. I think our biggest challenge really is going to be because we're kind of the new guy. We're not new, but we're kind of the new guys on the Indiegogo platform. So there's going to be a lot of folks looking at it as like, yeah, who you guys, you know? And so I think our biggest challenge is going to be to show them, hey, look, we're new to Indiegogo, but we've been doing this for a couple of years now, and we fulfilled everything. Everything has been fulfilled. Unlike these other products, we've done 12 of them, right, in the span of 2 years, and you're still waiting on one that you pledged to 2 years ago. You know, may be careful about how I say that, but but I think that's going to be our biggest challenge for the Indiegogo crowd is to give them the assurance that this is not just another campaign that's going to take my money and disappear. You know. Because I know a lot of them have experienced that, and you know, I don't know how to give them that assurance other than to say, you know, kind of look at our track record on Kickstarter, if they're willing to look there. Yeah. So,
that's a good call.
Does that kind of answer your question, Dean?
Yes. So one is fully funded, and that doesn't go until the campaign is fully funded. The Indiegogo, they take your money, and if it's not quite fully funded yet, they still move along with it, right? And eventually, we hope it gets fully funded.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And they'll Indiegogo has the in-demand thing, which again, I get the concept. I'm not completely sure how it works. I checked the little box that said, you know, yes, let us do that if that's possible. And what I think it does is once you reach the campaign end, it says, okay, the campaign is ended, but if you still want to contribute, you can still contribute here and collect funds up for a period of time. So, you know, I thought, I mean, like I said, I don't know exactly how it works, but it seems like a no-brainer for anyone working, you know, doing work.
What about the bonus stuff for Kalis? Talk about some of the bonus material and artist perks, people, you know.
So obviously I can't offer original art on both platforms because there's only one, right? So I can't offer, I can't offer Kalis, which by the way, I have the art, some of the artwork here that's going to be on there. So I can't offer like Kalis 4 page 3 to both Indiegogo and Kickstarter because there's only one of them, right? So all the original art will be found on Kickstarter. The other reason is I wasn't real sure how to do it on Indiegogo. So I thought about, well, I'll split them up, but I'm like, I could not figure out how to get it done because it's the same concept as the back issues, right? And I just couldn't figure out how to get it added on there. So there's probably 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, about a dozen pages of original art from Louis Tranowski, who is the penciler inker of Kalis. So that's a perk. There are, and I don't have them here. You know what? Why don't I just launch the campaign? Yeah. And then Aaron can share screen, and
you giving commands to your almighty Lord. Sorry. It's like I really got to quit making you producer.
So here we go. Prepare to launch. I'm going to go ahead and launch the Kickstarter. I've read these details. I'm launching right now. Launch right now. It's live. So, so Aaron, you can navigate to that page
Yep.
and share your screen. And what you'll see, if you scroll down, you'll be able to see some of the items. Once Aaron gets down there, get off of my face. Share screen, and then share your browser.
Okay, so I might have to give it a few minutes here. Let me go ahead and share my browser so I know, so you can see what I'm doing. Share screen, window. Okay.
By the way, we love Kablam.
It's
Yeah.
Whoa!
oh,
let's
look
see
at that
here.
infinity. That's
Check
pretty
the
cool.
Infinity, man. Wow.
Okay, that might be worth it. Okay, so it is do Silverline Comics playlist.
I get a notification in my email. It
Yeah.
took me right there.
If you follow us, you'll get that notification.
Nice.
It just with seeing as how it just launched, I'm not sure.
That's what I'm thinking. I wonder if I have to.
Did you not follow the project, Aaron? Aaron,
Yeah, I
did
did.
you not follow? Okay, you should have gotten. Oh, now we're
Okay, here
gonna
we go.
look at it.
Take me there.
Yes.
Okay, here we go. Here we go.
There
Yeah.
you go.
Oh,
right.
yeah.
Sweet.
Nice.
So yeah, if you'll scroll down a little bit there. All right, there you go. That is the Kickstarter exclusive cover done by Thomas Hedgelin and Ryan Bruner, I think is his last name, and obviously colored by the awesome Mika Clausen. That is exclusive to Kickstarter, and that's the double-sized issue that I said combines issues 3 and 4. Okay, so that is your Kickstarter exclusive. And then, of course, there's the digital, and then this is the trade cover that will be available on both platforms, and that's a mock-up. I'm working with Mike Belcher. He's got some really cool ideas for our trade. I got to thinking at the last minute. I'm like, hey, wait, we're going to do some trades. I don't want to just do them like now. Don't get me wrong. I like the stuff, but I don't just want to do them like I did, a lot of the black and white stuff earlier. I'm like, hey, it needs to still look like a Silverline book. So Mike tossed me a couple ideas, and we've gone back and forth. So that's a mock-up, and hopefully I'll be updating.
You do the Silverline logo at the top, and this is at the bottom. That's kind of cool. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's kind of the idea, is to do a little something. Something different like that to kind of set it apart from the issues. So that's the trade cover, and then if you'll scroll down, you'll see variants, and this will of course be available to the Kickstarters. There's got variant. The first ones are the variant A's. That's number 3 on the left and number 4 on the right.
Are they both by Quentin?
No, the one on the left is Quentin, and the one on the right, number 3 is Quentin, and number 4 is Louis Chernowski, who is and you know what? I've asked Brent. Louis is from Argentina, I think, and I've asked him. I said, "What the heck is that box doing on there?" It's like there's a box right under with just a bunch of shelves. I'm like, it's a panel on the cover. What the heck?
What did he say?
I really like the cover. Don't get me wrong, but I'm like, what is that?
Yeah, it seems a little.
It's
the only
odd.
thing I'm thinking is, is it supposed to be somebody shooting him, and these are the shells that are hitting from the guy that's shooting them?
I think so. I think that's what that is. But it's just kind of an odd.
It is kind of. I kind of like it. I mean, I personally think it's kind of cool looking. It's different. I think and I like different things. So. And
then, so the next you have the B covers. The B covers number 3 is done by Alex Gallimore, and is currently being colored by Mickey. And then for number 4, I actually just got that finished, the complete pencils, but I did not have a chance to update the image before we launched. And that's by Thomas Hedgelin. So that's the B cover for number 4. And then, of course, what we like to do on the Silverline campaigns is we like to offer the retro editions. And this is not a throwback to our age at all. But this is a throwback to the fact that, independent comics a lot of the history was black and white. And so these will have color covers, but all the interiors will be black and white. If you're like me, I'm a huge fan of line art. Not that I don't like the colors, but I'm a huge fan of the line art. I love to look at what pencilers and inkers, do on a page. So I love these versions myself.
Yeah. And then we got assorted interior art. Oh, there's actually pages in the book. Just kidding.
Yeah. So, aside from the fact that some of those covers aren't done, all the interiors are done. All 22, 22, 44, all 44 interior pages are finished. So, once we finish the covers, we could print and ship this thing immediately. But yeah, so they're all done. That's the unlettered pages.
Yeah.
But that's all interior art from issues 3 and 4. And just to kind of show it off, show that it's done. And then there's the add-ons. These are all the things on Kickstarter that you can add on. And I made a little video. This is how you do it.
You want me to play the video?
No, don't play the video.
Okay.
I'll let people can play it if they want to do add-ons. And then this is the original art that's available as add-ons. Just a bunch of assorted pages, from issues 2, 3, and 4.
Okay, so this covers 2, 3, and 4. So
we
already did
he just sent me a few extra pages from number 2.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, but the Kickstarter is 4 issues 3 and 4. Again, the trade has issues 1, 2, 3, and 4 in it, right?
Yeah.
And you can get all 4 issues if that's what you want. But the Kickstarter, the new content is for issues 3 and 4. So, and that's all the original art. And then following that, you'll see all of our back issues. So I'm actually going to attempt to launch the Indiegogo now. Okay, I've never done this. Ready to go live, 18 September 26, which is the correct date. Is that right? September 26th.
These are the people.
Yep. Yeah, that's the creators.
Very cool.
Which I think are important.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna hit launch campaign, y'all. Share with your friends. It's live on Indiegogo now.
Awesome.
So,
Okay, let's see. Now,
So
Indiegogo, I
you should-
am not the greatest at. I still love that image. Sorry. Anyway,
Let's see if I
it's
can
like
find it.
so try indiegogo.com/campaigns/Kalis. I got to. They let me get a what is it? A vanity URL. Indiegogo.com/campaigns.
okay. Let me see. I can find it this way
Oh, there you go, right there, the
Boom.
first one. Wow.
Nice.
because it's that cool.
Yeah.
But you got a video for you have a video for the Kickstarter one too, right?
Yeah, it's the same. It's actually the same video. I told Brent when we
Okay.
made it, I said, don't mention Indiegogo, don't mention Kickstarter. We're just going to say crowdfund campaign so we can use the video for both places. So yeah. And so this is the cool thing about Indiegogo is that you can put up a bunch of just images. I didn't know what they're like, put some images here, and I'm like, okay, why? I was like, why am I doing this? So I put them up
Strangely
there.
enough, it's because a lot of people don't like to watch videos. So
Yeah.
like a lot of people, I'm one that strange enough. I don't really. I was like, oh, video. I'll just go down and start looking. That's what I will do.
Yeah.
So I can understand it. They're like, well, no, if you got this, like, well, I'll just go to the slideshow and see what it's about.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I think it's just a preference, but I think it's kind of nice that they do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
I'll
cool.
start
This
the
is a
videos.
trade.
Yeah, that's the trade.
Very
But
nice.
on Indiegogo, they can get either. They can get the trade or so there are 3 options on Indiegogo. It's pretty simple. You can get the trade, you can get the 4 issues, or you can get trade and 4 issues.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's very cool. That is very nice.
Yeah.
So, like I said, I'm my stomach is not in big knots, but it's in little knots just because I'm like, okay,
We
Indiegogo.
already have 3 backers on Kickstarter.
Yeah, all right. Woohoo.
Woo!
Thank
Awesome.
you guys.
Do you have any on? Not yet. Okay. So what we got? That's okay. Indiegogo, we got, we're still new in that. We're
Yep,
more popular on Kickstarter.
We got to
Yeah.
spread the word, yeah.
Will happen. So
So-
you guys go to Kickstarter, go to Indiegogo, go to your crowdfund of choice, and select Kalis. We gotta do this, man. We gotta make our mark. This is our
right.
chance.
Yeah, this is our foothold into Indiegogo. It's
Mhm.
time
It
to
is.
start walking that path.
Oh yeah.
So when you're sharing, guys, be sure that you don't exclusively share the Kickstarter links, right? Share the Indiegogo link as well, you know.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. So hopefully, like I said, hopefully the folks over at Indiegogo, and by that I mean the comic book fans, because they're there. There are comic book fans and readers on Indiegogo, and so hopefully they'll look at us and give us a shot. Hope so. That's the plan, you know. But like you said, we're the new guys on Indiegogo, so we got to get in and prove ourselves.
Oh yeah. So come check us out. And for those who are interested in meeting some of the creators in person, where can that possibly happen, Roland? Where
well, so Aaron is going to someplace this weekend, right?
Yes, I'm going to Rose City in Portland, Oregon.
And you'll have, as far as Silverline books, you'll have Friar Rush 1 and 2.
1 and 2, yes.
Yep, and as well as Godlings.
Yeah, and then my two kids' books, the Roscoe Alien Wildlife Photographer, Miranda Fantasyland Tour Guide. So I have kids' books. I have stuff for kids too.
Yep.
That's awesome.
And then the very next weekend, we are having Silverline Central at Daytona Beach Comic Con, which has just sort of become through the good graces of the convention. That's kind of become our home show. There's going to be I count last time. I think I counted. Was it 9? I think. So let me see if I can name them all. I'm going to forget. Y'all help me not to forget anybody. All right, so I'm going to start with the locals. So I'll be there. Haley will be there. Brent Larson will be there. John Crowther will be there. Although John's set up with I forget the name of it, his wrestling books, but he'll be there still and real close to us. Tommy Flormonti will be there. Barb will be there. Barb's very first appearance in the entire state of Florida. So
awesome.
Search through your back issue boxes, bring stuff for her to sign. She don't mind. And if she complains about writer's cramp at the end of the day, we'll all do this.
Yes.
Right?
I'll sign as much as you want me to sign. I don't care.
So that's Barb. Let's see. Then Scott Wakefield will be there, who is the co-creator and writer of Steam Patriots.
John Martin, right?
John Martin will be there, who is the inker for Friar Rush. And they haven't said it, they haven't shown it, but I'm going to say it here, and hopefully I'm not letting the cat out of the bag. But John actually did the badge art for the stuff at Daytona Beach. So he did 3 different badge arts. Barb inked one of them. But John kind of spearheaded all the badge art for Daytona Beach. So everybody at Daytona Beach, whether they're a vendor, a creator, or a guest, is going to be walking around with the Silverline badge on.
Very nice.
So
very nice.
Yes.
And when is this convention?
Hold on. I'm not done yet. I've only got 8 fingers up.
Oh no.
So it was John Martin. John Medic will be there.
Medic's
Medic is coming. And he is the writer creator of Sniper and Rook, of which we have been swapping a lot of messages the last couple of weeks, and we are this close. Can you see that? We're this close to getting Sniper and Rook on the Kickstarter schedule. So I'm very excited about that. Excellent. So there's going to be 9 of us there. Every attendee will, they'll get a bag when they come in of goodies. There will be in that bag, there will be a signature card for a random Silverline creator. So if you want them all, you got to, swap cards with your buddies who come with you. But every creator who will be there will have a signature card, it'll have cover art on one side, and then it'll have their face so that you can recognize them at the table, and then a place for them to sign. So bring those cards up, dig into your bags, bring those cards up and get them to sign those. And then we can tell you about the books if you don't know about them. The first 250 attendees will get a free Silverline poster. But you got to be one of the. I'm pointing right there because that's the one I'm talking about,
That's
right?
the poster. Yes.
Yeah. But that's only for the first 250. So if you and they're flat, they're not folded. They're in a great big box. I don't know how he's going to do it. I'm assuming he's going to set it out and just you get to grab it when you go come in the door. I would suggest you roll it up probably and stick it in the bag. But so that's exciting. That'll be available to the first attendees. And this is not this weekend, but next weekend, September 18th and 19th. It's a 2-day show, Saturday and Sunday. So
very nice.
Yeah, make your
You guys
plans. Come see us.
Check it out. Yeah, check it out. It's gonna be awesome. It's gonna be awesome. Well, that just about wraps up the show tonight, everybody. We appreciate your patience with us as we kind of got off to a different start with our production, but everything came together and enjoyed the discussion. And we like this platform, don't we, Roland? This is a good platform.
Yeah, it's really easy to use, and I think that's one of the things that we'll have to look at. It's really easy to use. So in the instance of somebody can't be here, somebody else should be able to jump on and handle it without a huge learning curve. Like OBS, the stuff we use for, I like Discord a lot. You guys don't get me wrong. So I really like Discord, but to stream from Discord is problematic because you've got to use a separate piece of software to stream from Discord, and that's not really easy to use. It's kind of like trying to learn if you've never used it, trying to learn one of these Adobe packages. And if you've ever done that, that's not real easy to do. So I like this, and I think it's going to give us some neat options as we move forward. Should be some fun stuff, I think. So. Oh yeah, I agree. And what do we always say when we close out our shows, everybody? We like to have a phrase where we join in and say, "Make mine Silverline." All right, Aaron, do you know how to do it? Do you know how to close it out?